gross monthly income. A title loan cannot exceed 3% of the consumer's gross annual income or 70% of the vehicle's value. It requires that any installment loan be repaid in no more than 4 installments, and that 25% of it must go towards the principal each time. So you're not just constantly, because that's part of, you'll see in the materials, that the fees account for the biggest majority. The loans may be a small percentage, and the refinance and the fees are the big majority. And that lump sum repayments cannot be refinanced more than 3 times, and that any proceeds from the refinancing must be used to repay at least 25% of the principal, and that loans made within 7 days of a previous loan is considered a refinancing. So that's the general provisions, and there's a copy of that TML ordinance in the packet. And some of what, here are the North Texas cities that have done it so far. It's Arlington, Dallas, Denton, Flower Mound, Mesquite, Garland, and Weatherford. But Wayne will tell you that at this point, no city has actually prosecuted based on this ordinance. So it is a bit unchallenged. It has been challenged, but not on its merits. Because, and he would tell you that perhaps that is because they are simply complying with the ordinance, or perhaps it's because the cities have not been actively enforcing it. I would tell you that I doubt that any of the cities are going out and regularly auditing those. It would simply be complaint driven. And then even then, enforcement on this would likely be more, it would be difficult. So sometimes, you know, you say, why pass the law that you can't necessarily enforce? What they will tell you is that the cities that, there is a likelihood that the cities that do not have such a regulation end up being, I guess, both the safe haven for the lending companies. And so if Hearst and Bedford were to adopt the ordinance, and Euless does not, and then Irving were to adopt the ordinance, that you would probably see more of a proliferation of those businesses within your own city because you do not have an ordinance and the other cities do.
But there's nothing in that ordinance that really solves the problem of 567% APR.
It at least limits the amount of times that they can continue to refinance and makes a portion of that go towards the principal each time, so that you're not just constantly digging a hole.
There's nothing we can do about setting, like the banks have rates, you can't charge usury laws.
The federal government, and you'll see that the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau is currently proposing rules. That would be federal rules. That would really be better for all of this. But again, those are proposed now and we don't think would be effective for at least a year to 2 years. And they may and this may very well preempt anything that local municipalities might do. What the folks would tell you that are really pushing for this is, let's go ahead and do something at the local level now, continue to encourage the state to do something statewide, and then if the Fed does take action and preempts it all, that's fine. I mean, you know, that solves the problem, or at least helps solve the problem. Hearst and Bedford have taken this to their city councils, and they have visited with them about it, and both expect to recommend to their councils that they adopt this. They're asking that we consider doing this by the end of September. So we'll probably be looking at this at one of your last meetings in September. And these groups are happy to come out and go through all of the materials and literature. Another piece of this is that there are active efforts at I'll call it from the faith-based communities, to find alternate sources for people so that you're not just limiting, but you're actually being able to give them another resource. And I know Six Stones doesn't do this, but they're looking for groups that, and there are some of these out there, that where the folks can be referred to, where they can get access to credit, but not at these kinds of interest rates. So in general, I just want to hear whether or not you all are willing to consider this, and certainly no decisions today on how you want to go, but if you are not opposed to us bringing this forward, and if you would like to have them come in and give you a more thorough presentation on it or not.
Is this in addition to our current can't establish next to a highway, can't
Yes.
establish next to a school?
We currently have zoning regulations The zoning regulates where they can be, and this is really in any of the we refer to this as non-depository
Right.
financial institutions, so it's slightly different definition. But it's, no non-depository financial institution may be located within 1,000 feet of another non-depository financial institution, or within 500 feet of Airport Freeway, 121, State Highway 10, or 157, or within 500 feet of an allowed residential use. And then here's the definition of that, and it's maybe a little more broad than what that is. So we currently have where they can go, but there's nothing about what they can do.
Okay, because I did this in
We've got
planning and
check cashing
zoning.
businesses within 500 feet
They're
of
not-
Highway 10.
Well, they're established already, they're not new.
Grandfather.
You had some that were there at the time this was adopted.
Like the one next to the one next to the old racetrack
Mhm.
on Industrial Boulevard,
Yeah.
it went out, so nothing can come back in to that
But
location.
there's one right across the street from that too.
That's in
That's
Bedford.
relatively
Bedford.
new. No, I'm talking about on Highway 10, right across from where the old McDonald's, or where the McDonald's still is, actually.
No, I looked at that, that's an auto insurance. AMAX is auto insurance.
No, there's a, I don't know if it's a pawn shop. or
There's a pawn shop.
But it's not, they do lending also.
But it was already there. I know what you're talking about. It's east side of that building was already there.
Well, and also this is where she said that our definition is a little different than what this group is doing. Look at that right there. The definition of ours excludes specifically pawn shop as one of those. So there's some little difference. We've not had anybody, since we adopted this ordinance, we've had a couple people come in with a proposed location, and we've been able to say, I'm sorry, we could not process your application. You are in violation of this ordinance, and they've generally moved on. But there are a group number that are just grandfathered.
I think even if this ordinance acts as a little bit of a deterrent, it's incredibly predatory, and we've got to do anything that we can. It's going to be a deterrent. Because the people that are being taken advantage of, unfortunately, just don't know any better.
Agreed. So is this in addition to?
It is in addition to.
Okay.
Yes. So,